Hello, everybody. In the next movie for 2024, we are reviewing Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. So, this is technically the first time I've ever talked about SpongeBob on this channel. And it's weird, because I always thought I'd be talking about the first SpongeBob movie, or the second one, or the show itself, but no, we're talking about the Sandy movie. So this came out, I forget, probably somewhere in spring or summer. I don't remember, but apparently SpongeBob is now kind of having a bunch of spin-offs at this point. I don't know, it's because the show's not successful. I mean, it's been going on for such a long time, but my history with SpongeBob is I've always been a huge fan of SpongeBob. I love the characters. I love the early seasons. Those are some of the peak SpongeBob episodes. And I still can quote some of those random episodes or think about those random episodes that are iconic. I love SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, Gary, Plankton. It goes on. But apparently they decided to do a Sandy movie, and it's called Saving Bikini Bottom. When I saw the trailer for this, I was like, what? But apparently SpongeBob and Sandy are going out of the water. So, it kind of makes the second movie kind of pointless because that whole movie was about being out of the water. But apparently SpongeBob keeps, leaving Bikini Bottom. But apparently this plot is where Bikini Bottom is stolen by a mysterious, person. But apparently Sandy and SpongeBob are going on a quest to save Bikini Bottom, which is apparently being tested on by a group of scientists at some water park. And so we also learn about, Sandy's family, so I guess that's something. But it mainly opens on Bikini Bottom, where they're having the typical SpongeBob day, where we see Sandy on some horse. I thought this would be some story about Sandy going back to Texas, because if you don't know, Sandy is the squirrel. It loves Texas and she grew up there, and then eventually she goes to Bikini Bottom and she becomes a smart squirrel or something. But once Bikini Bottom is captured, it's up for SpongeBob and her to go get it, and they literally find their way up to a plane. And apparently because SpongeBob can't breathe underwater, she instead just uses some spray to, make SpongeBob breathe since he's out of the water. So it makes it kind of just, like I said, it just makes the second movie pointless. And somehow these characters are surviving out of the water, because we later see in the movie Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs are thrown out of the tank and they're experimented on by the scientist. But I could say this about this movie. The voice acting is pretty good. I mean, everyone's really good. Tom Kenny is amazing as SpongeBob. He's still got that voice. And some people think he's too old to play SpongeBob now, since they think he sounds different. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. Him and Bill Fankerbank, who plays Patrick, they said they're going to play this role till they die, which makes perfect sense. But Roger Bummus as Squidward's good. Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs is great. And of course, Carolyn Lawrence is great as Sandy Cheeks. And Mr. Lawrence as Plankton. But most of this movie is just Sandy hanging out with her family, because later they try to go to the water park, but they're ambushed by a sandstorm tornado, and we see a band or something, but then when they run into a group of snakes, but they are saved by Sandy's family, who apparently they are circus acrobats, which makes sense for Sandy's origin. But she seems more of the Texas singer type. But they all decide to team up so they can find a way to go to the water park. But eventually they are hit by another tornado, and they are thrown to the water park. I'm kind of shifting a bit. But when we do see the scientist in this movie, this is where the movie gets kind of bizarre, once we learn the context of what they're doing. So, I think Wanda Smythe plays this lady named Sue Nemby. I know I'm looking at the Google, and she's got two assistants named Kyle and Phoebe, and apparently these three are trying to experiment on sea life. Apparently they want SpongeBob, so I guess this is now back to being a SpongeBob movie. But once Sandy and SpongeBob do make it to the water park, it actually looks kind of fun. I've always felt nostalgic for water parks since I loved going on water slides and going to the pool. It kind of makes me wish it was summer right now. But we get a bunch of random scenes where they're trying to find their way. But SpongeBob ends up tickling a bunch of random strangers, and that scene was wild. But once they do go to the headquarters, we do find out the context of this lady. So basically, we get this random flashback of our main villain. She's on some, they insert her adult face onto a child, which is meant to be a flashback. It is super weird. It just looks like they're messing with green screen gone wrong. If you've watched this, since this is on Netflix, you'll know what I'm talking about. But apparently she always loved sea life, and apparently she wanted to test on the Bikini Bottom people so she can create an army of SpongeBobs or whatever. And she also wanted to make like some like product. She's using Bikini Bottom to make products or something, and she ends up experimenting on some of the gang. She ends up getting Patrick, and he turns him into like a stretchy toy. But eventually when she does get SpongeBob, it causes SpongeBob to multiply into multiple SpongeBobs, and basically SpongeBob sort of dies because there's so many clones and he can't even recognize himself. But all the clones come out, and it even makes Squidward say he wants to die because Squidward doesn't like SpongeBob. He has to deal with him on a regular basis. But eventually, it turns out that SpongeBob's able to divide, and it turns out our main villain, Sue, she is apparently a robot, a fish controlling a body. It was half human, half robot, half fish, and it's like super bizarre. And apparently, the two assistants, they end up thinking how bizarre it is, and they end up betraying her. And then her head flies off and gets eaten by a giant orange blob fish. It's super weird. But eventually, Bikini Bottom is almost saved, but they get they're trapped in like this bubble thing, but a glass bubble, but it gets cracked, and they're worried it's gonna shatter. So Sandy tries to call her family, but she's unable to. But SpongeBob's able to, because they have like this hand gesture thing that basically like has them call for one another. But then the family does show up, and they try to save Bikini Bottom, but they are unable to. But with Sandy's power of science, she's able to get everyone to move all the way from the water park to space and back to Bikini Bottom. And I forgot to mention, the villain of this movie, she also has a pug dog. I thought that dog was a little adorable, and he even tries to chase SpongeBob and Sandy in the movie. But later we do see them have like a sort of event at the end of the movie where they have like a little circus where all Sandy's family and her perform. And we even see the human characters, Kyle and Phoebe. They're in like the spacesuits Sandy wears whenever she is going out of her tree dome. And we even see the dog in one. I thought that was a little adorable. But yeah, it's weird seeing live action humans in the underwater world of SpongeBob. So yeah, that's the Sandy movie. It's obviously just a weird cash grab. But apparently this movie was leaked on Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. But apparently someone uploaded the entire movie. So you got to see this really early. I honestly don't know why they made this movie. I guess they just wanted to cash in on the popularity of SpongeBob because the show's still going on. They're doing spin-offs or whatever. But if you're a big SpongeBob fan, I mean, kids will probably like this movie. But if you're a hardcore SpongeBob fan, I don't know if this movie's really for you. But honestly, I really just want to watch the first SpongeBob movie because this movie is just really bizarre, in my opinion. So I'd probably give it just like a 5 out of 10. Like, it's kind of just just a whatever fun kids movie kids will probably like if they're SpongeBob fans. But yeah, that's Saving Bikini Bottom. The next review we're doing next week is Miller's Girl. I'm super pumped to talk about that, despite it being super controversial. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.